Legendary Passages, Episode 87, 13th Argonauts Rejuvenation, from Ovid's Metamorphoses. Previously, the Argonauts returned home with the Golden Fleece, discovered old King Pelias had killed Aeson's father, and then Medea tricked Pelias's daughters into killing him, thinking they were restoring his youth. In this passage, Aeson's father Aeson still lives, although quite old. At Aeson's request, Medea flies on her dragons across Greece, searching for magic herbs to make Aeson young again. She succeeds, and telling the story to the daughters of Pelias, they beg her to do the same for their own father. So Medea changes an old ram back into a lamb, and wins their trust completely. Rejuvenation, a legendary passage from Publius, Ovidius, Naso, Metamorphoses, Book 7, translated by BROOKES MORE. Now when the valiant Argonauts returned to Thessaly, their happy relatives, fathers and mothers, praised the living gods, and with their hallowed gifts enhanced the flames with precious incense, and they offered Jove a sacred bullock, rich with gilded horns. But Aeson's father, Aeson, came not down rejoicing to behold his son, for now worn out with many years, he waited death. And Aeson to Medea, grieving, said, "Dearest, to whom my life and love are due, although your kindness has been great to me, and you have granted more than I should ask, yet one more thing I beg of you. If your enchantments can accomplish my desire, take from my life some years that I should live, and add them to my father's ending days." And as he spoke, he could not check his tears. Medea, moved by his affection, thought how much less she had grieved for her loved sire, and she replied, "A wicked thing you ask. Can I be capable of using you in such a manner as to take your life and give it to another? Ask not me a thing so dreadful. May the gods forbid! I will endeavor to perform for you a task much greater. By the powers of night I will most certainly return to him the lost years of your father, but must not deprive you of your own. Oh, grant the power, great goddess of the triple form, that I may not fail to accomplish this great deed." 3 nights were wanting for the moon to join her circling horns and form a perfect orb. When these were past, the rounded light shone full and bright upon the earth. Through the still night alone, Medea stole forth from the house with feet bare, and in flowing garment clothed, her long hair unadorned and not confined. Deep slumber has relaxed the world, and all that's living, animals and birds and men, and even the hedges and the breathing leaves are still, and motionless the laden air. Only the stars are twinkling, and to them she looks and beckons with imploring hands. Now thrice she paces, and 3 times besprinkles her long hair with water dipped from crystal streams, which having done, she kneels a moment on the cold bare ground, and screaming 3 times, calls upon the night. "O faithful night, regard my mysteries! O golden-lighted stars! O softly moving moon, genial, your fire succeeds the heated day! O Hecate, grave 3-faced queen of these charms of enchanters and enchanters' arts! O fruitful earth, giver of potent herbs! O gentle breezes and destructive winds, you mountains, rivers, lakes, and sacred groves, and every dread god of silent night, attend upon me! When my power commands, the river turn from their accustomed ways and roll far backward to their secret springs. I speak, and the wild, troubled sea is calm, and I command the waters to arise. The clouds I scatter, and I bring the clouds. I smooth the winds, and ruffle up their rage. I weave my spells, and I recite my charms. I pluck the fangs of serpents, and I move the living rocks, and twist the rooted oaks. I blast the forests. Mountains at my word tremble and quake, and from her granite tombs the liberated ghosts arise as earth astonished groans. From your appointed ways, O wonder-working moon, I draw you down against the magic-making sound of gongs and brazen vessels of Temes's ore. I cast my spells and veil the jeweled rays of Phoebus's wane, and quench Aurora's fires. At my command you tamed the flaming bulls, which long disdained to bend beneath the yoke, until they pressed their necks against the ploughs, and subject to my will, you raised up war till the strong company of dragon birth were slaughtered as they fought amongst themselves. And last you lulled asleep the warden's eyes, guards of the golden fleece, till then awake and sleeping never, so deceiving him, you sent the treasure to the Grecian cities. Witness my need of supernatured herbs, elixirs potent to renew the years of age, giving the bloom of youth. You shall not fail to grant me this, for not in vain the stars are flashing confirmation, not in vain the flying dragons, harnessed by their necks, from skies descending, bring my chariot down. A chariot sent from heaven came to her, and soon as she stroked the dragons' necks, and shaken in her hands the guiding reins, as soon as she had mounted, she was borne quickly above, through unresisting air. In sailing over Thessaly, she saw the vale of Tempe, where the level soil is widely covered with a crumbling chalk. She turned her dragons toward the regions there, and she observed the herbs by Ossa born, the weeds on lofty Pelion, Orthrus, Pindus, and vast Olympus. And from here she plucked the needed roots, or there the blossoms clipped, all with a moon-curved sickle made of brass. Many the wild weeds by Apidanus, as well as Amphiris's banks, she chose, and not escaped Epineus from her search. Penean stretches and Spherician banks all yielded what she chose, and Boebe's shore where sway the rushes. And she plucked up grasses, a secret grass, from fair Euboean fields, life-giving virtues in their waving blades, as yet unknown for transformation wrought on Glaucus. All those fields she visited with ceaseless diligence in quest of charms. 9 days and 9 nights sought strong herbs, and the swift dragons with their active wings failed not to guide the chariot where she willed, until they reached her home. The dragons, then, had not even been touched by anything except the odor of surrounding herbs, and yet they sloughed their skins, the growth of years. She would not cross the threshold of her home, nor pass its gates, but, standing in the field, alone beneath the canopy of heaven, she shunned all contact with her husband, while she built up from the ever-living turf 2 altars, one of which on the right to Hecate was given, but the one upon the left was sacred then to you, O Hebe, goddess of eternal youth. Festooning woodland boughs and sweet vervain adorned these altars, near by which she dug as many trenches. Then, when all was done, she slaughtered a black ram, and sprinkled with blood the thirsty trenches, after which she poured the rich Carcesian goblets generous wine and warm milk, grateful to propitious gods, the deities of earth on which she called, entreating, as she did so, Pluto, lord of ghostly shades, and ravished Persephone, that they should not, in undue haste, deprive her patient's aged limbs of life. When certain she compelled the gods' regard, assured her incantations and long prayers were both approved and heard, she bade her people bring out the body of her father-in-law, old Aeson's worn-out body, and when she had buried him in a deep slumber by her spells, as if he were a dead man, she then stretched him out upon a bed of herbs. She ordered Jason and his servants thence, and warned them not to spy upon her rites with eyes profane. As soon as they retired, Medea, with dishevelled hair and wild abandon, as a bacchanalian, paced times 3 around the blazing altars, while she dipped her torches, splintered at the top, into the trenches, dark with blood, and lit the dipped ends in the sacred altar flames. Times 3 she purified the ancient man with flames, and thrice with water, and 3 times with sulphur, as the boiling mixture seethed and bubbled in the brazen cauldron near. And into this, acerbic juices, roots and flowers and seeds, from vales Hermonian, and mixed elixirs, into which she cast stones of strange virtue from the Orient, and sifted sands of ebbing ocean's tide, white hoarfrost gathered when the moon was full, the nauseating flesh and luckless wings of the uncanny screech owl, and the entrails from a mysterious animal that changed from wolf to man, from man to wolf again, the scaly sloughing of a water snake, the medic liver of a long-lived stag, and the hard beak and head of an old crow which was alive 9 centuries before. These and 1,000 nameless things the foreign sorceress prepared and mixed, and blended all together with a branch of peaceful olive, old and dry with years. And while she stirred the withered olive branch in the hot mixture, it began to change from brown to green, and presently put forth new leaves, and it soon was heavy with a wealth of luscious olives. As the ever-rising fire threw bubbling froth beyond the cauldron's rim, the ground was covered with fresh verdure, flowers and all luxurious grasses, and green plants. Medea, when she saw this wonder, took her unsheathed knife and cut the old man's throat. Then, letting all his old blood out of him, she filled the ancient veins with rich elixir. As he received it through his lips or wound, his beard and hair, no longer white with age, turned quickly to their natural vigor, dark and lustrous, and his wasted form, renewed, appeared in all the vigor of bright youth, no longer lean and sallow, for new blood coursed in his well-filled veins. Astonished, when released from his deep sleep, and strong in youth, his memory assured him, such he was 4 times 10 before that day. Bacchus, from his celestial vantage, saw this marvel, and convinced his nurses might then all regain their former vigor, pleaded with Medea to restore their youth. The Colchian women granted his request. But so her malice might be satisfied, Medea feigned she had a quarrel with her husband, and for safety she had fled to Pelias. There, since the king himself was heavy with old age, his daughters gave her generous reception, and these girls the shrewd Medea in a short time won by her false show of friendliness. And while, among the most remarkable of her achievements, she was telling how she had rejuvenated Aeson, and she dwelt particularly on that strange event, these daughters were induced to hope that by some skill like this their father might regain his lost youth also. And they begged of her this boon, persuading her to name the price, no matter if it was large. She did not reply at once and seemed to hesitate, and so she held their fond minds in deep suspense by her feigned meditation. When she had at length declared she would restore his youth, she said to them, "That you may have strong confidence in this my promised boon, the oldest leader of your flock of sheep shall be changed to a lamb again by my prized drugs." Straightway a woolly ram, worn out with the length of untold years, was brought, his great horns curved around his hollow temples. After she had cut his scrawny throat with her sharp knife Thessalian, barely staining it with his thin blood, Medea plunged his carcass into a bronze-made kettle, throwing in it at the same time juices of great potency. These made his body shrink and burn away his 2 horns, and with his horns his years. And now thin bleating was heard from within the pot, and even while they were wondering at the sound, a lamb jumped out and, frisking, ran away to find some udder with its needed milk. Amazed, the daughters looked on, and, now that these promises had been performed, they urged more eagerly their first request. This passage continues with the death of Pelias and exile in Corinth, but our next passage previews an unhappy marriage in Medea's letter to Jason.